My name is Dave Tran, and this is Lux TV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. We have chiropractor Dr. Ed Osburn calling from Alberta, Canada. Dr. Ed graduated from Life West in 2002. Dr. Ed, welcome to Lux TV.
Thanks. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, so let's get straight on to it. How did you get involved in chiropractic?
Actually, I married a chiropractor, or a chiropractic student, you could say.
Gotcha.
But the short story is, we were in Toronto, Canada,
Hmm.
and we decided, my wife wanted to go to chiropractic college, and she decided she was going to go to Palmer West, so in California. So we made the move, and for me to actually stay within the country, I didn't even have an undergrad degree at the time. I had to go actually to school. So I went to college,
Gotcha.
and honestly, I had no desire to be a chiropractor at that time. I was going to actually come back to Canada, to Alberta, with my wife when she was going to build her practice, and I was going to do a PhD. I was looking at paleontology and things like that. But the thing is that once you get down, like, we were in the Bay Area, and it's like the mecca for chiropractic.
Yeah.
And once you're there, and I was, meeting all these amazing people, having sushi with Reggie Gold, stuff like that. It penetrates. It's like osmosis, and
Yeah.
it sucked me in. And so yeah, I before I knew it, I was finished my undergrad. I applied to Life Chiropractic College West, and boom, 3 years later, not even 3 years later, I'm like a chiropractor.
Oh, wow. And then,
So it was a girl.
yeah, so both you and your wife are back in Alberta, Canada, practicing?
Absolutely, yes. We both practice in just outside of Edmonton in Alberta. But if it hadn't been for, I interview people on, my podcast, the Chiropractic Philanthropist, all the time, and everyone says, that chiropractic chose them, and I've never really understood that. But in a sense, it really chose us, both my wife and I too. It really did. It's not a cliche. The way that life unfolds and how we became chiropractors, and it being, just such a noble profession, and the most amazing relationships we've built with patients in our practice. It's just a real blessing to be a chiropractor, we feel.
Yeah, and you briefly just mentioned it, and that's how we kind of crossed some paths too. Because I started seeing your social media posts on Facebook and Google Plus and Twitter and so forth like that about the chiropractic philanthropist, and and even when my friends had sent me a message like have you seen this it's free podcast and I mean you should definitely check this out. I'm like, oh yeah, because I like every other student chiropractor out there, they love free stuff. So yeah, so and that's how I first kind of got introduced to you, was from social media. So with the chiropractic philanthropist, you put out a lot of podcasts. So what inspired you to do podcast?
And by the way, I love what you're doing. And yeah, that's actually how I learned about you. I saw you on Facebook, and I think I saw your interview with Dan Bay,
Okay,
and
yeah.
and I was like, wow, man, this is so cool. And this is actually after I had started the podcast. So originally, my idea with the podcast was, there was a challenge back in '09. I was quote unquote diagnosed with a severe disease, like chronic illness, and I was unable. I tried to keep practicing, and I just kept getting more and more not well. And it was really, really difficult for me, that because my identity was so built up in being in my practice, and being, serving people in my practice. Not being able to be there was like losing my identity. I was really kind of lost, a little depressed, and I wanted to still remain connected with our profession. And that's kind of where the impetus of the chiropractic philanthropist came back. It was all about giving back, and that's why I called it the philanthropist. It was, I wanted our I wanted to interview my colleagues, so people I knew, and my friends, and hopefully I was hoping someone would listen. And it
Yeah.
just kind of, yeah, it grew from there. It exploded. I'm not the first chiropractor to have a podcast, but I think we've taken it to a whole other level.
Yeah, if people watching the video kind of check out the chiropracticphilanthropist.com, you'll see how well yours is put up. I mean, I'm not saying that other people's aren't, aren't that great. But even though there are a lot of podcasts out there, the way that you produce them, the intros, the just the website itself, and actually, everything about it is, really spectacular. It looks professionally done. It looks great. I mean, if a prospective patient were to look at it, or even curious students that want to enroll in chiropractic school, or I mean, they can get on it and see the high quality production value. I think it's great. Um, so I know whenever I kind of first started doing some YouTube videos, I was kind of a little freaked out, and I know some other students out there, wanting to do a podcast, are a little bit freaked out. I mean, why? And probably haven't stepped forward to do it yet. I mean, so why is it so important for a student to kind of check out what podcasting is all about?
I think it's really, and this is kind of a cliche to say, it's the next generation of marketing, but I interviewed Grant Cardone, and I got a huge respect for that guy. He's so cool, and he said something. He goes, your biggest problem as chiropractors is obscurity, is that people don't know who we are. So on a local basis, people don't know who you are as a chiropractor, but on a larger scale basis, people don't know what we do as chiropractors, or they have a misconception of what we do. And so I think that the big solve for that is podcasting. So if you can take someone like me, who had no broadcast experience ever, and podcasting's well, I have a good mic, I guess. But I mean, I just put this thing together in 4 weeks. I reached out to some chiropractors who didn't know me. You'd be surprised how many amazing docs are out there that would love to come on and talk about themselves. And I mean, but seriously though, I mean, the whole profession has a purpose. We all became chiropractors for a reason, and it is about bringing us all back together and realizing that we all do have a lot of things in common as a profession. And I think so. I think it's really important that as a chiropractor, if you have a podcast, you have a way to market, to sell, if you want to say it. I know it's a bad word to say, sell your message, but we have to let the public know what we do, right? I mean, otherwise we're marginalized to the 5 to 7%. So from the humble beginnings of the philanthropist, that's really what our purpose is now, is to help other chiropractors take what we've done, or and I say we because Chris Burfield is taking over all the promotions for me, and I'm just going to focus on content and membership and helping docs get their own podcasts up. I want them to stand on my shoulders, and I want them to be #1 in iTunes, and so that we as a profession can start crushing it like we should be. We should all be so wildly successful, right? And that's really what I think, why everyone, I mean, if you start your practice as a student and you come out and you go, okay, I've chiropractic college, and you go, okay, I'm going to start my practice up, would you even think twice about not having a website? I mean, you wouldn't consider it. And it's going to be the exact same thing when it comes to podcasting. I mean, it's a huge platform that you can even text message your podcast to someone, to their mobile. I mean, who doesn't look at their text messages? And you can again market your message. You can have a communication with your voice, which is so powerful, with a patient or a prospective patient.
And what I found out is that even though I love my YouTube videos and I think they're great, but what I do know is a lot of chiropractors and chiropractic students listen to audio on their way to work or school, or on traveling and stuff like that. It's not so safe to watch a video while driving.
But it's a no-brainer. I mean, they're putting the platform for Stitcher and for SoundCloud into manufacturers, are putting them into vehicles starting this year. I mean, if you're not in that space, Doc, I mean, what's it going to take? When I was in chiropractic college, driving around in my 1984 Mercury Monarch with a rusted out bumper, and Reggie Gold sitting next to me, and we had tons and tons of they're called cassette tapes we had. Yeah. Do you remember those? You probably saw a picture in a museum. We had those, and tons of those. As a student, I would listen to these tapes over and over again, and as students we would share them. And then podcasting is essentially the same thing, and it's a huge resource for a profession. Not only that, but it's an archive of, look at like what Kerry Sigafus is doing. He's created an archive of Jim Sigafus's work that you can go and get him for free on iTunes and get your daily dose of philosophy. It's beautiful.
Yeah, it's so portable. Now with smartphones, you can, with high speed internet and data plans and so forth like that, you can stream almost anything. And I'm getting ready to go to the gym right now, and I'm almost like neuro associated myself with learning something, and going to the treadmill or the stairmaster. And I think it's huge. I must take the next step and kind of shift over. I mean, you've definitely inspired me to take the next moves towards it for sure. But yeah, I mean, it's all out there. And if students are out there, and docs too that watch the channel are interested, I mean, there's everything on his website. Ways to get into contact with him to create something of their own as well. And lastly, what would be your greatest advice for a chiropractic student?
So I would do it differently than than the way I did it. 6 months before I graduated, I actually was building out my practice with my wife. And I would probably instead, my best advice for a student would be to go visit as many offices as possible while you're a student. I would also build as many relationships with chiropractors and doctors as possible and attend as many seminars. I'm going to give you multiple things here. And then I would also do one other thing, or two other things. The first one is I would get an associateship, and I would learn as much. I would soak it up, and I would work my tail off for at least a year before I start to consider to move outside of that space and create something of my own. And do that. Create something of your own. Don't do and parrot what you learn, but take it and create something that's unique for you, and you'll be so surprised at how your practice will grow, and be flexible in that same sense. And one other piece of advice I would give is stay in integrity. Okay, so what I mean by that is if you sign an agreement with with a doc as an associate, honor your agreement. Okay, I see this, and I've heard this. I had a doc. I won't obviously mention names, but even last night, we were texting back and forth that their associate has left, and they're moved a couple blocks down the street or a block down the street, and open up. And all I'm saying is, let's respect each other as professionals. Let's learn from each other. But there's so much room out there. The population is so underserved. So let's just honor those agreements. Even I had that experience as well, and I've had to kind of just let that go. But always stay in integrity, and again, respect each other. I think we should be more respectful of each other as professionals.
That's huge.
That's my advice.
Yeah, great advice, Dr. Ed. And thank you so much for sharing your light with us today. If you want more information or want to connect with Dr. Ed directly, check out the links below. Every week I will be uploading a new interview with another leader in the chiropractic profession. If you like this video, please share it with your classmate, give this video a thumbs up, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. My name is Dave Train, and this was Lux TV, shedding and spreading light for the chiropractic student. Thanks again, Dr. Ed.
You're welcome.